we go to Marvel. MCU guru Kevin Feige on the backlash that Doctor Doom was just thrown out there with no build-up prior to Doomsday. Kevin, your thoughts? Well, it was the same with Thanos.
Hold up. Are you retarded?
I'm Jazz Borganzo, and this. It took 10 years of build-up in the Thanos arc before Endgame.
It's not a rhetorical question. Are you retarded? I knew it.
But it's what's next. What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages? I am your humble host, Jazz Borganzo. This is another episode of What's Next, you know, your daily dose. Hope you guys are feeling good today on this Tuesday. Well, we're going to stay in entertainment. We're going to stay in pop culture instead of doing the hard politics that, you know, you guys are used to seeing me do. We go to Marvel. Yes, we're back in Marvel. And of course, this whole situation with, you know, with Spider-Man and Black Panther and Doctor Doom and Doomsday and all this, over the weekend with San Diego Comic-Con was just phenomenal for Marvel. But there's a question that looms. Where was the build-up for Doctor Doom going into Doomsday coming out in December? Well, Kevin Feige defends that and says, well, you know what? It was the same with Thanos. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Yes, it was the same with Thanos. Because Thanos didn't have 10 years of build-up. No. He was just thrown out there. And this is Kevin Feige, who put the entire 10-year arc together of Thanos. But let's have fun with this one. And here we go. This comes out of Geeks and Gamers. Kevin Feige defends lack of Doctor Doom build-up by downplaying Thanos. Wow. And of course, that is for Thanos for those who with short-term memories. Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige is attempting to quiet the criticism surrounding Doctor Doom's sudden arrival in Avengers Doomsday. But in doing so, he may have unintentionally highlighted one of the biggest creative failures of the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse saga. Speaking at the San Diego Comic-Con, Feige dismissed concerns that Doctor Doom is being rushed into the MCU, arguing that Thanos received similar little development before Avengers Infinity War. Again, I'm sorry, what? Could you repeat that, Kevin? The Thanos buildup has built up in people's heads over the years, he said. Oh yes, it was just a figment of your imagination. He sat on a chair at the end and putting the gauntlet on and said, I'll do it myself. And he yelled at Ronan on the video screen briefly. That was kind of it. No, it wasn't. He later added, that's what we're doing with Doom. Doomsday is the introduction and the story of Doom. You peel the onion and learn about him as you go.
But I will say, I do think, I was just saying to somebody else, that the Thanos buildup has built up in people's heads over the years. He sat on a chair at the end.
I have to admit it. This guy probably has watched every single MCU film in the Thanos arc, but yet agreed with Kevin Feige and said, well, I disagree with that.
He pulled the gauntlet out and said, I'll do it myself. Yep. And he yelled at Ronan on a video screen briefly. And that was kind of it. And I remember the memes making fun of Thanos for just sitting in a chair. And all he does is sit on a chair. And there was a Twitter feed at the time about him updating every day, I'm still sitting in my chair. It was more clever than that, but it was funny.
All right, let's stop it. On the surface, the comparison sounds reasonable for those who don't have common sense. It all falls apart the moment you examine how the Infinity Saga was actually constructed. Feige is comparing two completely different situations or scenarios. One of the defining strengths of the Infinity Saga was that audiences were constantly watching Thanos. It was the audiences that were constantly watching the consequences of Thanos. It wasn't that they were watching him, it was watching the consequences thereof. Marvel spent nearly a decade building towards Infinity War through the Infinity Stones themselves. The Tesseract powered Captain America, the first Avenger in the Avengers. Loki's scepter appeared in the Avengers before later revealed to contain the Mind Stone. The Aether dominated Thor in Dark World. The Orb introduced the Power Stone in Guardians of the Galaxy. Doctor Strange's Eye of Agamotto housed the Time Stone. They all linked to Thanos. Hello? The Infinity Stones became the connective tissue of the entire MCU. Even when Thanos wasn't physically on screen, his shadow loomed over virtually every major Marvel film because audiences understood someone was trying to collect these cosmic artifacts. Marvel wasn't building anticipation simply by throwing Thanos sitting on a chair. It was building anticipation through an overarching narrative that made every new discovery feel like another piece of a much larger puzzle, which of course was Thanos. By the time Avengers Infinity War arrived, audiences already understood the stakes. They knew that what the stones were. They knew what they could do. They knew what they were. They knew what mattered. Thanos simply arrived to collect the pieces Marvel had spent years carefully placing on the chessboard. Doctor Doom doesn't have that foundation. Doctor Doom's situation couldn't be more different. But for the multiverse saga, Marvel wasn't building towards Doom at all. It was building towards Kang the Conqueror. Until situations. From Loki to Ant-Man to the Wasp, Quantumanium, Marvel repeatedly presented Kang as the next great MCU threat. The Council of Kangs was teased, variants were introduced, entire storylines revolved around him being the franchise's new overarching villain. Then Jonathan Majors was fired, and Marvel pivoted almost overnight. Kang disappeared from the face of the earth. Kang who? And Doctor Doom subtly became the centerpiece of the multiverse saga. That's not years of careful planning. That's changing quarterbacks halfway through the game. Nice. Unlike the Infinity Saga, there's been no equivalent to narrative framework preparing for audiences for Doom's arrival. There's no reoccurring Doom-related artifacts connecting the films. There is no Latveria quietly influencing world events in the background. There are no decades of old rivalries with Reed Richards or the Fantastic Four that have been carefully established across multiple films in the comics. There's no gradual sense that Doom has been manipulating events behind the scenes. Instead, audiences are simply being told that Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom is now being the biggest threat in the MCU. And yes, audiences are being sucked into it, I being one of them. Those are fundamentally different storytelling approaches. Feige's defense also undercuts the Infinity Saga. Perhaps the strangest part of Feige's comments is that they seem to diminish one of Marvel's greatest accomplishments. The Infinity Saga is widely regarded as one of the most successful long-form storytelling efforts in history precisely because everything felt connected, and it was. Marvel rewarded audiences who paid attention. Small details from one film became major payoffs years later. And of course, that's Steve Rogers wielding, yes, Thor's hammer. The Infinity Stones weren't random MacGuffins, they were backbones of the saga. Reducing all that to Thanos just sat in a chair a few times ignores the years of narrative investment that were made into Infinity War resonate. It wasn't Thanos himself who carried the buildup, it was the world Marvel built around him that did so. Modern Marvel keeps rewriting the past because, of course, that's what they do. Thank you, Disney. There's also a broader pattern and longtime Marvel fans may recognize. Excuse me. Rather than acknowledging the multiverse saga lost its original direction after Jonathan Majors' departure, Feige instead reframes history to suggest that this was always how it was supposed to be. Instead of admitting Doom's arrival under unusual circumstances, the Infinity Saga itself is subtly minimized to make current strategy appear normal. A familiar tactic. Rather than explaining the new direction isn't working, something beloved from the past gets reframed or diminished in order to elevate the present. Marvel and Disney as a whole has repeatedly done this with legacy heroes while attempting to promote replacement characters, a strategy that's often been referred to as the fans as mantle strategy. Instead of allowing new characters to stand on their own merits, older icons are frequently weakened or deconstructed so their successors appear more impressive by comparison. This feels like a similar approach. Instead of recognizing what made the Infinity Saga successful, Feige reduces and carefully long-term plan of a handful of Thanos cameos in order to defend the multiverse saga abruptly shift from Kang to Doctor Doom. Why would he do this? Why would he downplay 10 years of build-up to Infinity War and then to finish it off with Endgame in an incredible, outside of a couple of blips, Thor, Thor: Dark World, Ultron, and of course the terrible Captain Marvel. But Doctor Doom has had zero build-up. They were building up for Kang, and then when Jonathan Majors went south, they had no choice but to pull the quarterback, insert the backup, and see if anything changed. Because of course, it's just like taking prime Tom Brady off the field, putting in Joe Blow and say, hey, go win a Super Bowl for me. It's the same thing. This is ridiculous. This is asinine. This is dumb. This is retarded. I don't know why Feige would go this route, but he did. He shoved both legs down his throat, and now he's getting ripped apart because of it. Doctor Doom better be all it was supposed to be. Because I'm hearing that this movie was made anywhere between $500 and $800 million budget. Almost $1 billion budget for this movie, Well, let's take into effect that $100 million of those went to Robert Downey Jr.'s bank account. Anyway, with that being said, I'm Jazz Berganzo. This is What's Next. Want to see more like this? Please leave a comment below. Like it, share, subscribe to it. Hit that notification bell so you guys never miss a thing. Continue spreading the word about the show. Appreciate you guys watching as always. And we'll see you next time. Peace.